Hey, what is good, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So this is the second video in the RAG series. And before we go any further, I wanted to talk about an important concept called as embedding. So what is embedding? In very simple terms, embedding is the process of converting text into numbers. These numbers are called as vectors. They're called as vectors. On a high level, this is the concept, but we will understand why it is important. Okay. Consider you go to a library. Okay. You go to a library. In the library, you ask for books about programming, and the librarian says, go to section number 1. Here you will find programming, Java, Python, C, DevOps, and all kinds of programming books. In the second section, you might find food, cooking, HELTHY, healthy recipes. In the section 3, you might find soccer, football, Ronaldo, and stuff like that. And section 4, you might find anything else like history or Gandhi, so on and so forth. The important point being, in a library, everything is grouped together. Everything which is related is grouped together. So when a book arrives, they look at it and they say that, okay, this is related to programming, let it go in the programming section. So when someone wants to find related books, they know where to go. Embedding is something similar. Okay. So what an embedding model does is, or what embedding does is, you take a text, so Python, AI, Java, DevOps, or backend. If you pass these words through an embedding model, the resulting vector which is generated, the vector is nothing but a number. Vectors are nothing but numbers. The vector for these could be -2, -3, -4. Vector for Python could be -2, -5, -1. The point being, because these are related concepts, all of these are related concepts, the vector representation is similar. It is close by. So that is how the embedding captures the semantic meaning or the underlying meaning of that word. So that is why when we ask for what is best backend language, you may get answers from an LLM such as Python, Java, or Golang. Because under the hood, what has happened is these terms are related to each other. This query is converted into a vector, via an embedding model is converted into a vector, and the resulting representation, the vector, is close by to the words like Python, Java, Golang. So what is best backend language? So these the resulting vector from that question is related to these terms. So how does it play a part in RAG? So in RAG, what happens is here, this one. So when we send a query, the query goes to an embedding model, and then using that embedding model, the vector, we query the vector database for those embeddings or vector the values. From those resulting query, we get the nearest chunks of the documents which we had already chunked, and that context is then passed to an LLM, and we get an answer. So we have 3 documents. So this is document 1, this is document 2, this is document 3. It's broken down into chunk 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But And when we pass these chunks through an embedding model, let's call it EM. EM is the embedding model. Yeah. The chunks, the related chunks, the values, the vector values which are generated by them are related to each other. So when we persist them in the database, they are stored close by. So to show you another image, this one, the one I talked about. So when terms like football, cricket, tennis are passed through an embedding model, the relating vectors are close by to each other. And that's why they are stored closer. Similarly, concepts such as Python, Java, Golang, backend, software engineering, they have the similar vectors and they're stored close to each other. And similar for food. So we're talking about 2D, 3D vectors, but depending on the model, we can have n dimension of vectors. And based on the model, the vector which is generated is better or worse. And there are multiple levels of multiple dimensions in which this data gets distributed. But the point being, related data is stored close by. So embedding means, in simple terms, embedding means text to vector, but how related terms have vectors which are close by. So that is the most important part which you have to remember in embedding. Convert text to vectors, but the vectors which are for related terms, they are stored close together, and that is how semantic meaning is retained by embeddings. And retaining semantic meaning is important. If you want to know why it is important, consider traditional SQL. Okay, in traditional SQL, what happens is we do queries such as select star from say uh, tables, yeah, where column like percent something and percent. So when we do a like in traditional databases, it is able to find related terms, but based on the values. It does not know semantic meaning. So if you do select star from programming languages, where language like Python, it might find Python, Python developer, or Python programming. Okay, but it would never find terms like backend developer or software engineer or computer programmer or system design engineer or forward deployed engineer. But in the embedding world or in the LLM world, because we are able to retain the meaning. So when we do something like uh, Python dev, or we search for something called as Python dev in the LLM world, because we have stored the underlying meaning of that term. It could be related to terms like Python dev, backend dev, system forward deployed dev, AI dev, stuff like that. And we have stored the semantic meaning. That is why we're able to get more information as opposed to traditional SQLs. Traditional SQLs are limited to the word, exact word or approximate matches. But semantic matching, that is the understanding the meaning of the term and then returning results. So that is more important, and that is where embedding comes in. Because as we build RAG pipelines, we need to break down the documentation, but also we need to understand and store similar parts of the documentation in similar areas. So when we have to, when the user asks us a query, we're able to answer them with fair degree of confidence by understanding the meaning of that. So that is about embedding. It is very important concept to know, and I hope I did make a sincere attempt to explain it. I hope it was clear.